You signed for 6.4% the day the bank had already approved you at 4.9. You didn't know that number existed. There was no conversation about it. The finance manager slid the contract across the desk, pointed to the rate, and your eyes moved past it because the monthly payment was already on the screen and it fit inside your budget. You weren't careless. You were working with the information in front of you, and the information in front of you was incomplete by design. Here's the logic that made it feel right. You'd spent 2 hours negotiating the price down. You'd pushed back, the salesperson had made calls to the sales manager, and eventually the number moved. By the time you sat down in that back office, you'd already won the negotiation. At least that's what it felt like. The hard part was done. The finance manager was calm, organized, and moved through the paperwork with practiced efficiency. You assumed the rate reflected your credit. You assumed the products on the menu were standard. You assumed the person across the desk was processing, not selling. Here's what that assumption actually cost. On the $30,000 loan over 5 years, 1.5 percentage points is $3,000. Not over a decade, over 5 years. It doesn't appear as a line item. It's folded into the payment in increments small enough to feel invisible. $60 a month doesn't feel like $3,000, but it is. And the dealership kept every dollar of that difference as profit under a practice called dealer reserve, legal in most states, invisible on your contract, and invisible by design. That number was already set before you sat down. The only way it changes is if you walk in knowing what the bank actually approved you for. Stay through the full breakdown. This is where it starts to make sense. The average American pays $17,000 more than they should when financing a car at the dealership. Not over the life of the loan, just in the finance office. That number comes from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's latest lending report, and it includes everything from inflated interest rates to add-ons you didn't know you were buying. Most of that $17,000 could have stayed in your account. Walk into any dealership and you'll negotiate the price down. You'll feel good about it. The salesperson will act defeated. Then they'll send you to the finance office, and that's where the real sale begins. You think the hard part is over. It isn't. What happens in that back room is where dealerships make most of their profit, and it's structured in a way that makes it nearly impossible for you to see what's actually happening to your money. Here's what most people believe. They think the finance manager is there to help process paperwork and get them a loan. They assume the interest rate offered is based purely on their credit score. They figure the extra products like extended warranty or gap insurance are optional recommendations. All of that sounds reasonable. Dealerships want you to believe it because it keeps you relaxed and trusting during the most profitable 15 minutes of their day. But here's what's actually true. That finance manager is a salesperson, not an administrator. They earn commission on every product they sell you and every percentage point they add to your interest rate. According to Edmunds, the average dealership makes more profit in the finance office than on the sale of the vehicle itself. In 2023, that number was around $2,000 per car on the lot, but over $4,000 per customer in finance. The vehicle is practically a loss leader for what comes next. What does your own rate markup actually cost you? Let's start with interest rates. You have a credit score of 720. The bank approves you at 4.9%. Sounds fair, but the finance manager quotes you 6.4%. You don't question it because you don't know what you were approved for. That 1.5% difference costs you over $3,000 on a $30,000 loan over 5 years. The dealership keeps that markup as profit. It's called a rate markup or dealer reserve, and it's legal in most states. The CFPB has tried to regulate it, but enforcement is inconsistent. You won't see this on your paperwork. The contract will show 6.4% as your rate. It won't say the bank approved you lower. It won't say the dealership added points. You'd only know if you got pre-approved from your bank or credit union before walking in. Most people skip that step. They think it doesn't matter because the dealer will find you the best rate. The dealer is not looking for your best rate. They're looking for the rate that maximizes their profit while still getting you to sign. Now add the products: extended warranty, gap insurance, paint protection, tire and wheel coverage, theft deterrence systems. The finance manager will present these as smart moves. They'll use fear. What happens if your transmission fails after the factory warranty ends? What if you total the car and owe more than it's worth? You're already sitting there for 40 minutes. You're exhausted. You just want to finish and drive home. So you say yes to 2 or 3 things. Each one adds $30 to $80 to your monthly payment. Over 5 years, that's $2,000 to $5,000 per product. Some of these products have value. Gap insurance makes sense if you're putting little money down. But here's what they don't tell you. You can buy gap insurance from your auto insurance company for a fraction of the dealer's price. You can buy an extended warranty later, often cheaper from third-party providers. The paint protection they're charging $1,200 for is a bottle of ceramic coating that costs them $40. You're not paying for the product, you're paying for the fear they created in the last 3 minutes. Then there's the psychological setup. You've already decided to buy the car. You've spent 2 hours negotiating. You've called your spouse. You've pictured yourself driving it home. Walking away now feels like failure. Behavioral economists call this the sunk cost fallacy. You've invested time and emotional energy, so you're more likely to accept terms you'd normally reject. The finance office knows this. That's why they send you there after everything else is done. Your defenses are down. Your decision fatigue is high. They're sharp and caffeinated because they do this 12 times a day. And the really clever part is how they frame the cost. They don't say the extended warranty costs $4,000. They say it's only $68 a month. Your brain doesn't process that as $4,000 over 5 years. It processes it as roughly the cost of your phone bill. Breaking large numbers into small monthly payments is one of the oldest sales tactics in consumer finance, and it works because our brains are wired to minimize immediate discomfort. $68 a month doesn't feel like a sacrifice. $4,000 does. So here's what happens next. You sign the contract, you drive home, and for the first few months you feel fine, maybe even good. You've got the car you wanted, the payment fits your budget, barely, but then the initial excitement fades and you start looking at that monthly statement. That's when the math becomes real. The average auto loan in America right now sits at around $537 a month. According to Experian's latest data, the average loan term is just over 68 months. That's nearly 6 years, and the average amount financed is $39,000. If you're paying 6.4% interest on that, you'll hand over about $5,400 in interest alone before you own the car outright. Add the products you bought in finance, and you're closer to $6,500 in total extra costs beyond the price of the vehicle. Now let's say you're 58 years old. You're still working, but retirement is visible on the horizon. You buy that car today with a 6-year loan. You'll be 64 when it's paid off, 1 year before you might leave the workforce. And if you're like most people, you won't keep the car that long anyway. The average length of vehicle ownership in the U.S. is about 8 years, but many people trade in or sell around year 4 or 5, right when they've finally built some equity. They roll the remaining balance into the next loan, and the cycle starts again. This is why so many Americans are perpetually underwater on their cars. They're not bad with money, they're just caught in a system designed to keep them borrowing. The dealership makes money on the sale, the bank makes money on the loan, the finance manager makes money on the products, and you make payments. But here's the part that gets overlooked. It's not just about the money you're spending, it's about the money you're not investing. $537 a month for 6 years is $38,664 in payments. If instead of making that car payment, you invested that same amount in a basic index fund averaging 7% annual returns, you'd have over $51,000 at the end of those 6 years. That's $12,000 more than you paid for the car, and you'd own an appreciating asset instead of a depreciating one. I'm not saying don't buy a car, most people need one, but the way we finance them has become detached from financial logic. We've normalized 6-year loans on vehicles that lose 30% of their value in the first 2 years. We've accepted interest rates that would make our grandparents faint, and we've let the industry convince us that monthly payments are the only number that matters. They're not. The total cost matters. The interest rate matters. The length of the loan matters. And what you could have done with that money matters. Here's a scenario that plays out every single day. Someone walks into a dealership planning to spend $30,000. They want to keep the payment under $500 a month. The dealer shows them a car for $35,000. It's nicer, better features. They love it. The finance manager says they can get the payment to $495 if they stretch the loan to 72 months. They agree. 6 years later, they've paid $42,500 for a car now worth maybe $14,000. They've lost $28,500 in depreciation and interest combined. And the worst part is, they think they got a deal because the payment was $5 less than their target. The payment is not the price. It's a monthly installment on a much larger obligation. But our brains don't work that way. We anchor to the monthly number because it's manageable. It fits into our budget. We can picture it. $42,000 is abstract. $495 is concrete. That's not an accident. The entire financing process is built to shift your focus from total cost to monthly cost, because once they do that, they control the negotiation. They can move numbers around, extend the term, raise the rate, add products. As long as the monthly payment feels acceptable, you'll sign. And this isn't just about new cars. The used car market works the same way. Certified pre-owned programs sound reassuring, but they often come with interest rates just as high as new cars and loan terms just as long. You're financing a 4-year-old vehicle for 6 years. It'll be 10 years old when you pay it off. You'll spend half its lifespan making payments on it. So what changed? How did we get here? Because 20 years ago, the average loan term was around 52 months. Interest rates were lower. People borrowed less. What happened between then and now comes down to 3 forces, and understanding them is the only way to avoid becoming another statistic. The first force is stagnant wages. Median household income adjusted for inflation has barely moved since the early 2000s, but car prices have exploded. The average new car in 2004 cost $28,000. Today, it's $48,000. That's a 71% increase, while wages grew less than 20%. People still need cars. They just can't afford them the old way. So the industry adapted by stretching payments thinner and longer. The second force is cheap credit. After the 2008 financial crisis, interest rates dropped to historic lows. Banks needed somewhere to put money. Auto loans became attractive. They're secured by collateral. They're predictable, and Americans need them. So lenders loosened standards and extended terms. Suddenly, you could finance a car for 7 or 8 years at rates that seemed reasonable, except they weren't reasonable when you calculated total interest paid. The third force is the shift in what we expect from cars. 20 years ago, a car was transportation. Now it's a rolling smartphone.